Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for that welcome. I'm Ruth Faulkner. I'm currently in London, but I'm a digital nomad. So I'm based between the UK, Australia, and Europe, and I'll touch on that a bit more in a minute. I run a business called Toucan Content. Love the Toucans. That's a borderless brand, comms, and content collective. And we have a focus on purpose-driven projects and women-driven businesses. And that's a lot of words, but what I really do is try and help people doing great things be more human in the way they communicate about those things. And that's really important to me, but it sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Needing to be more human, but it isn't. And that's what I want to talk about today. And the journey that I got there is part of that story, because I think whether personally or in business, we've all forgotten how to be human. As humans, one of the things we respond most to is emotions, stories. That's what leads to real connection. So I'm going to start with my story. So shortly after I started my business, that was early last year, I went out on LinkedIn and I took a moment to be brave and open about my story. I told my network that for International Women's Day, I was going to be giving away 100 hours of pro bono support to help women-focused organizations. In reality, 100 hours became about 300 hours, but that's what happens when you're passionate about something. But there was a personal story that drove me to make that offer, and I gave that nuance out on LinkedIn. On International Women's Day, a couple of years ago, I took a test and found out that I had an unwanted pregnancy. The irony of it being on International Women's Day wasn't lost on me. I was actually incredibly frustrated to be a woman in that moment, but I was clear about my decision. And with even more irony, I aborted on the UK's Mother's Day a few weeks later. When I went to LinkedIn, I shared this story. The reason that was driving me to want to work with women-led organizations and businesses. I wanted to give back to these organizations. I felt so lucky to get the choices that I was able to get and to make the choice that felt right for me as a woman. But also I wanted to work with other women. I wanted to uplift women. I wanted to make a change. What had happened in my personal life drove what I wanted to do in the future. Now, sharing something like this on a platform like LinkedIn, which is a business and professional platform, is absolutely terrifying. And it's terrifying sharing the story here with you today. But I think that's the problem, because when I did share my story openly and honestly, the connection that came from that one post was absolutely unprecedented. It changed my life and it changed the direction of my business. The pro bono work that I offered, that became long-term client relationships and projects I really adore working on. It gave my business a clear focus, and I've worked with so many women since. And it helped me center around this kind of people and purpose over profit that is what drives me today. But it wasn't really that was the biggest connection. The biggest connection came from speaking to other women about experiences that they'd been through. I remember one that was the most touching. Someone who I barely knew. I'd met at a conference once a few years back, maybe, but they were kind of on my LinkedIn network. They reached out to me via direct message and said, just recently, they'd been through the exact same experience. They'd, had an unwanted pregnancy and decided to make the choice to abort. But for them, that was a lonely and isolating experience because they felt it was, taboo and scary, and they couldn't tell anybody. They literally couldn't even tell their bosses in order to get the time off work that they needed to recover and work through the pain. So this is the point, I think, in the fact that they hadn't seen other people sharing these stories externally. They were led to go through an uncomfortable situation on their own and feel isolated. So for me, my post sharing my story was a terrifying experience, but in doing so, it allowed someone else to feel seen. And the connection that I got back from that was incredibly powerful. So this comes back to being human. In not being human, in not being open and vulnerable with the things that affect all of us, we're put at a disadvantage, both at a personal level and in business environments. And it's even in incredibly common things. So 1 in 3 women in the UK will have the same experience in their lives that I had, that this other woman had, and yet it's still not talked about openly. It's still not something that's mentioned in the office or in businesses or when you're requesting time off. And because of that, people are put at risk. So that's the point. I think being open has the possibility to help others, but also that if more of us were able to do so, it wouldn't be a big thing anymore, because actually the numbers tell us that a lot of people are in the same situations as us. They're just quiet about it. Now, the abortion, while it doesn't define me now, and I'm in a great place, it was a turning point for me. I found it very hard to stay in the corporate role that I was in at the time after this, and I'd left to start my own business by the end of the year. Because I think when something happens that feels traumatic, it does change your perspective. I felt like I wanted to do things my own way. I wanted to focus on projects that, like I said, were purpose-driven, women-focused. But I also wanted to be kinder to myself in setting up work that worked in the way I wanted it to. I wanted to ensure that I could be open, that I could be myself in the workplace. And for me, that was about creating a space for myself, because the corporate world didn't match with that. I don't really believe in overuse of AI and corporate jargon and fake professionalism. I had to set up a business that's actually kind of open and blunt and clear about the way we do things. I think that's even more common when it comes to women. The corporate space has for years been very male-centric. So whether it's talking about things that happen to absolutely every woman, so menopause, periods, that's still considered unprofessional, taboo in many workplaces. But even just showing up with empathy and emotion and more naturally feminine traits can sometimes be considered unprofessional. I was preparing for this and I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday, and a lady shared that she was told that her beautiful long curly hair was unprofessional in the workplace and that she should really straighten it. I was absolutely shocked. That's still the case today in 2025. Whereas I remember back at the start of my career being told that, I had to look a certain way, and that meant wearing black, grey, cream. I've clearly ignored that because now I try and embrace the bright colors. But for a long time, I tried to fit myself into a corporate uniform. I think this is the mess that we've made as we've created businesses, as we've separated the professional from the human. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is trying to inject the human back into everything. These days, we're all feeling more disconnected than ever. And so actually it is storytelling, it's real people, it's, making sure that it feels authentic and not AI that's going to make the connections. So if we all try and share and get closer to each other, then actually I think we're going to feel less isolated as a result. So I hope that my story kind of challenges this narrative that you have to compromise either your values or your humanity to succeed in work, to build a successful business, to succeed in the corporate environment. Because I found that the more of my humanity that I put out there, actually, the more I got back from the people around me. And I really believe that if you lead with authenticity, support causes you believe in, your business and your clients will thrive. So in that way, being human, it's not a weakness. It's really one of our greatest strengths. And I think that's the message I'd want everyone to take away today.
Wow, Ruth, you have been through quite a bit. Absolutely amazing story.
As have many women. I think that's the point. It's not uncommon.
And this is the sad thing, that it's more common than uncommon, and we are not talking about it. Not
Exactly.
enough is being said. And so people end up feeling isolated, feeling like they're alone, feeling like it's only them. Yet this is happening to so many women around the world. Now, with the advent of what's going on, especially in the United States, why do you feel called to share this story right now at this moment in time?
So I think almost the scarier it feels to put something out there, the more important than it probably is to do so. Because I mean, I remember when I was going through it, I remember searching online for information for other people with the same experiences. I could get medical information, but I wanted to hear from other people who'd gone through it, and it was kind of hard to find. And that's in the UK, that doesn't have the same political space. I can imagine in places where it is harder to access support you need, it's even harder to then access what feels like a support network of other people who have been through experiences like you. And whether it's this experience or others, I think we all look for touch points from others. We all look for to understand that, you know, you're not alone, you're not niche, that there's not something wrong with you for doing a certain thing or making a certain decision. So I think actually as the political landscape gets scarier to speak up, it's more important too.
So you shared this deeply personal story on LinkedIn about your abortion experience. What gave you the courage to be so open on a professional platform?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I question myself every day with these kind of things. I think I did get positive reinforcement when I shared my story one-on-one with people. You know, great friends and family, and even in the workplace, people around me. And then so I realized that it needn't be as taboo as it felt like it was to me, and that was actually something that I could counter. I still thought I would get some form of backlash. I didn't get a single negative comment. And I'm not saying that would be the case in every space, and you know, maybe I'm still going to, but it might sound a bit naive, but I actually think people are kinder than we assume they are in our heads. You know, the negative voices in our heads that we hear. I think when you put yourself out there, people are actually kinder back to you than you expect.
So that single post transformed your business trajectory. Can you walk us through what changed for you personally and professionally after hitting publish?
Yeah, so it really was the early days of my business, the first couple of months, which are very unsettled anyway. And you know, my skill set is previously as a journalist, as a writer, as a content strategist. And I kind of was like, oh yeah, I'm sure I could do that in a number of places for a number of different things. I didn't have vision and clarity. And I think in actually finding what mattered to me and putting that out in the world, and then the reception that I got back from that, it gave me that clarity. I went, okay, look, we're going to focus on purpose-driven activities, projects, companies, and women-led businesses, organizations, charities. And as a result of that, then I've got the clarity to lead the business in the way I want to, but then people know the support that they can get from you. Clients come to me knowing that that's what I'm focused on.
Mhm.
And frankly, I think then the joy that you experience from it, because you're focused on doing work that you're really interested in. Like, I'm fascinated speaking to my clients every single day because they're all doing amazing things. And I've been so lucky to have that opportunity to work with people like that.
Wow. So when you made this decision to create a boundless brand and a comms collective, what inspired you to build a business that rejects the traditional agency norms?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I worked in a number of different roles. I was a journalist. I worked in-house in corporate business. I worked in a larger agency. And so I saw how it was supposed to be done. And some of those things made sense to me, and some of those things just didn't, or just didn't quite resonate with my values and the way I wanted to work. And there was a few things that came through in that. So one is actually I was brought up on a teeny tiny island off the south coast of the UK called the Isle of Wight. Tiny place, very pretty, but not very exciting. And I've always wanted to see the world. I think I grew up with such tiny borders around me of an island that I wanted to be kind of just as borderless as I possibly could.
Possible.
And and that brought me to go, okay, how can I build a business where I can work from anywhere? There's times where I'll have to be in a specific place for a meeting or a event or a video shoot or something. But actually, the majority of time, I've set up my business so that it could work from anywhere. So that was the first norm I wanted to break, is that I don't have to be in an office, and
Mm,
that building trust and relationships with people doesn't only have to be done face to face. As much as I love seeing people, it's great. Actually, I've been able to build trust virtually, and that creates a much more boundless business because you can
mm,
connect with people all around the world.
I love.
I think the other thing was the collective side of it, is that I wanted individual experts to be celebrated for what they give to the business.
Mhm,
So the people that work with me, they're not just kind of hidden under the business brand. They're all named and shared for their expertise and celebrated. And a number of them have their own personal projects on the side as well. And we lift those up in the same way because they're all
mm.
incredible experts. So I guess, yeah, people over the business first is the approach.
So your motto seems to be, purpose and people over profit.
Mhm.
How do you keep that value front and center in the industry that's obsessed with margins?
Yeah, I think this is the tricky thing. Um, so, push comes to shove, I know I could make more money if I did it differently. That's just,
Mm,
a reality. And I think sometimes people talk about living by their values, and it's only up until the point that it doesn't lose them something.
yeah.
I decided early on, I'm happy if it loses me something. I'm happy not to hit crazy business numbers or like brilliant profit margins if that means squeezing on people in order to get them. And that's
Yes.
what I've seen from the industry a lot, the kind of the margins that to gain the margins, you have to squeeze, and the squeeze comes against people. I think I've always said to myself, you know what, if I do it the way I think it should be done and it feels aligned to my values, if it stops working or it fails, I know I will have had a great time and I would have felt good about what I'm doing, and then that's
Yeah.
fine. Then I'll move on. If it becomes business impossible, fine. I gave it a shot, but I never felt
Mm,
like I did something that didn't feel value
wow,
driven to me.
I love it. Now, you've said that as humans, we respond most to emotions and stories.
Mhm.
How can purpose-driven organization harness storytelling more effectively?
I think there's such incredible opportunity, and it's really why I like to work with these organizations, because they're the people that you speak to and you go, wow, that's what you're doing? That's
Mm,
amazing. But then you look on their website or something and it's very corporate speak, it's very jargonistic, and that thing that like hooks you in is hidden behind layers of like blah. Um, and so I often have to kind of unpick and challenge with my clients and like, actually, how can we pull the heart of what you do forward? Many of the organizations are kind of founder-led businesses, so the founder story is really important to kind of tap into, but also the end impact. I work with a charity focusing on helping children at a specific stage in their life, and just kind of almost preemptively stopping children who are at risk through mentorship and support before they get into a risk place. It's amazing the impact that they can do. And so then we focus more on the impact stories. Obviously, all the children are anonymous, but we can talk about the quotes from directly from them. We can talk about the impact they felt. We can get feedback from the teachers on how they've changed. We can get feedback from the carers on how they've changed. And it hooks you when you hear a young person say like, you know what, I've been absolutely transformed by this person that was in my life because they were a steady support. I knew they were there for me. That kind of thing hooks you in. So I think the story's always there. You just have to dig and get them out.
So sharing vulnerability can be terrifying yet powerful, if you've learned. What advice would you give to leaders who are afraid of being too human in business?
I think it's a fine line. I never want anyone to do anything that feels uncomfortable or unsafe for them. And
Right.
everybody's level of that is different. But I do think there's a support network that can be provided, and there's almost just a kind of hand and a kind of person through it. If I can be there with them side by side as they are doing something brave, then at least they always know they've got someone in their kind of camp ahead of time. And then part of that is sharing my experiences, going, you know what, when I have put myself out there, the positive reception I've got back has been great. So just giving examples as well. I think the bravery level is different for everyone. So for some people, the bravery level might be, like I said, changing from a corporate uniform of black to something colorful. That might be a brave step for them. For some, it might be sharing a personal story. But, as long as they feel like they're taking some steps towards feeling more them, I think they're going to feel positive about the process.
I love it. And you've also challenged these norms around appearance in the workplace, like rejecting that corporate uniform. How does self-expression tie into authenticity and impact?
I think it comes across more than you imagine, actually. And I think one of the things that I haven't touched on that does come across in self-expression is being able to feel like you represent who you are and where you come from as well. I remember when I first had finished university, was in a kind of big London advertising agency, and like I say, the expectation was to dress a certain way. Not only did I not know how to do that because I came from a kind of lower socioeconomic background, council houses, we call them in the UK. I didn't have any role models to tell me how I was supposed to look, so I felt constantly uncomfortable trying to figure it out. But also there's an economic pressure on it. I was like, I can't go out and buy the like fancy blazer that cost me like a month's salary because I just can't do it at that age and at that point in time. And so I think sometimes the pressures on looking a certain way can affect people in like a myriad of ways that there's a socioeconomic element to it as well as maybe not feeling like it aligns with their personal identity.
So what role do you think empathy and emotion, traits often labeled as feminine in quotes, should play in reshaping leadership models today?
So I think one of the things I learned when I started to go out on my own is I'd always been in environments where we were looking at competitors And it felt very competitive, like, oh, we have to win this over them, or we're competing with them. And it felt very kind of, I don't know if you know the expression, but like elbows out, you're kind of pushing people away from you. One of the kind of empathetic traits I guess I've lent into is actually the opposite. If I see someone doing something in a similar space to me, it's reaching out and going, hey, how cool. We both have similar interests and passions. I'd love to learn about your experiences. Can we help each other? Can we uplift each other all together? And as a result, we're all going to be more successful. We don't need to compete. We don't need to, again, like I say, and it generalizes, lean into more kind of masculine traits that are competitive. We can lean into empathy and care. And actually, I think that's going to work for us from a business point of view. As a result, I've created some incredible partnerships with like-minded organizations. And then, if a client comes to me and wants something that maybe I could do a little bit of, but I know these people over here are amazing at, I would much rather refer them over. I think again, maybe it does come down to money and like not being over competitive about kind of holding your own, but trying to share and amplify everyone together, I think really helps as a leadership and like business model.
Now, earlier you mentioned giving away 100 hours of pro bono work that turned into nearly 300 hours. What did that experience teach you about generosity in business?
Honestly, I think it always comes back. Like that's my core belief, is that if you put something out, it comes back to you. And it may not be straight away, and it may not be within a year or 3 years or whatever, but you just never know. It comes back in the way people talk about you. So you'll see lots of businesses will do whatever they can to get a client to refer them. Frankly, if you've helped someone, you've helped them solve a problem, they're always going to be kind of shouting about you anyway. You don't need to force that. And then, it opens up unexpected avenues. So one thing I haven't talked about, is because it's more this year, is a organization we supported with pro bono to set up their brand and launch with a new website. And not only was I given pro bono, but a number of other experts were given their pro bono time. And they're focused on helping women who have gone through domestic abuse get back into work and excel with their careers. So initially, I just wanted to help because I was like, that's a great purpose. As a result, we're now kind of partnering with them and working with big businesses to help women who are going through domestic abuse. And I'm supporting on the comms in that. It's led to a kind of business partnership that will have longevity. I couldn't have ever seen that outcome, but I went in because I cared about the purpose, and then it went that way. So I do believe that things come back and you're just never going to know how they're going to.
That's quite interesting. My grandmother used to say that the universe is like a giant bank, and you just have to keep depositing good deeds. They come back tenfold in very unexpected ways, and it's never from the people that you help.
Yeah, it can come in all sorts of ways. You never know who's paying attention and listening either.
Yes, yeah. So let's finish off with this last question. If you could leave our listeners with one call to action about bringing humanity into business, what would that be?
I would say it is reflect on if there's any mask that you're putting up, how can you address that or take it down? So whether that mask is dressing a certain way or hiding a part of yourself or a story that you've kept hidden because you've been scared of putting it out and sharing it, think about, how can you dent away at that mask and break it down into little baby steps. Don't feel like you have to change everything overnight, but think about one step you can take to break down that mask.
Oh, that's really good advice. Wow. Well, Ruth, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us. I'm really looking forward to sharing you again with our community at the online summit.
Excited
It's
for that.
really exciting to connect with women who are go-givers and not go-getters. This is what the story is all about. We're really aiming to try and expose those people who do things just for the sake of doing something good. And they are the unsung heroes. They're not acknowledged publicly, but they silently just turn the wheels of time and put in some good in the world. So thank you for your work and everything that you're doing for nonprofits.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really appreciated it.
And the best way for people to contact you is your website. I've got it at the bottom of the screen. How else can people reach out to you?
You can literally just either drop me an email. So it will be Ruth at, and then toucancontent.org, as you can see on the screen. Or I'm very present on LinkedIn, as mentioned. So feel free to drop into my LinkedIn DMs.
Fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement with a vision to bring you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Ruth, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.